Hi there, my name is Jardin from Agility, and today I'm going to show you how to set up Git and Sourcetree within your environment. Now, just two things to note before we get started. First, if you don't know anything about Git and source control management, stop the video right now and go and learn this technology. It is an absolute requirement in one's development environment, whether it be client-side or server-side development. The second note is that Sourcetree is optional. But it's something that Agility that we install by default. It's a visual tool to interface with your source controlled designs. It's standalone, it runs outside any kind of development environment, and it really works well when you are a person who has to work with multiple development tools that all make use of source control management. Sourcetree really just does the job, and it does the job well. So let's get these tools installed. So here I have my Windows 10 environment running, and I've opened up IE Edge to the following URL. It's git-scm.com/downloads. SCM stands for Source Control Management. And that should take you to this page over here where we can download the latest release of Git, which is for Windows in this case, and you just click on this link. I've already downloaded it on my side, and you can see that it's over here, so I'm just going to double click to install this. You can just follow the basic recommendations during the install process. And there we go, Git is now installed. So just one thing to note over here, you can interact with Git, when interacting with Git via the command line, you can either do it via normal command prompt, or you can interact with it via git bash. And I believe that git bash is a lot more recommended than just using the normal command prompt, so it's really up to you. At the end. So what we're going to do here is we're going to run git bash, and I'm going to run it as administrator. Whenever I run anything in a command prompt in Windows, I always by default run it as administrator. So the first thing that I want to do here is just check the version of Git, and I do that by saying git dash version, and there we go. So we're happy that Git is running on our environment. So the next step is to install Sourcetree. So I'm going to close this for now, and if you open up your browser to the following URL, sourcetreeapp.com, you'll get taken to this page where you can click on this button, Download for Windows. So I've already downloaded it on my side, and you can see here it is. I'm just going to double click to run this. Now, it might require a .Net let this run for a second. I can't remember what it's called. Yes, it might require a .NET framework if you haven't got the relevant version installed on your environment. Because my Windows 10 is a pretty brand new environment, with the exception of what I've already installed as part of this series, it is asking me for a version of .NET. So I'm going to install this now by clicking on yes. When clicking on yes, you'll be taken to this web page where you'll be asked to download the .NET framework. Currently the version that it wants me to download is 4.7.2. So you click on that over here. I've already downloaded this on my side as well, and it will look like this. This is what the exe will look like. So I'm going to double click on this, and I'm going to say yes, and I'm going to let this run. Right, and once the .NET framework is done being downloaded and installed, we can click on finish, and we can try and install Sourcetree again. So let's double click on this. So we can now finish up the setup. Right, so the next thing we need to do is we need to either register or log in with our free Atlassian account. This is a compulsory requirement if you want to continue using Sourcetree, but there are no don't worry about it. It's a free online account. It doesn't require any credit card details or anything like that, and there's a good chance you'll end up using it later on in any event. So I would highly recommend going and registering an Atlassian account. If you already have one, then you can just click on the Bitbucket icon, not the Bitbucket server. That's an on-premise server. You can click on the Bitbucket icon here, and that will go and authenticate us on Sourcetree's cloud environment. So you have two options at this point. You can either log in with Google, or you can manually log in, and in my case I'm going to manually log in. So it says over here authentication has been successful. We can close this page, so let's do that, and let's go back to Sourcetree, and we can see great, registration is now complete. We can click on next to continue. So you can see over here, you can choose to download tools. We have already installed Git, so that's all good, but it's asking us if we would also like to install Mercurial. So this is optional if you want it or not. In my case, I don't actually ever use Mercurial. And let's just click under advanced options. Yeah, let's just leave these as is and click on next. And what we can do now is we can set up some preferences. We can set what our global auth details will be. In other words, our name and our email address. So we can just say over here, name and email address. And you can choose to help improve Sourcetree by sending anonymous information. I'm just going to deselect this for now and click on next. We will get prompted if we want to load an SSH key. For the moment, we're not going to do this. That will be a separate video in one of our series later on. And we are now inside the user interface for Sourcetree. So there's one or two more things that I'd like us to just do before we continue. When it comes to working with Sourcetree, it's a very good idea that all your source control projects exist in some sort of central initial root folder. And at Agility, what we do is we actually just create a root folder for all our projects. On the C drive, for example, I'll create a new folder and I'll call that Sourcetree. So all our projects will exist inside this folder, all our source control projects. So once I've created that folder, I need to just go to the preferences of Sourcetree to go and update the path. So in the general folder, if you just go down to repo settings project folder, we can now point it to our C drive. Where are you? Sourcetree folder. There we go. So click on OK. So before we end this off, let's have a quick test. I've got GitHub open on inside IE, and I've pointed it to a project by the name of Lodash, which is a very powerful Node.js project. It's probably one of the most popular projects out there. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to clone this source control repo to our local environment. And we do that by clicking on the clone or download button here, and we can just copy this link. And if we go back into Sourcetree, we can go and say clone. And we can provide the URL, and the path will automatically be populated because we already went and configured it. So you can see it's pointing to Sourcetree, and it's now creating a project for us called Lodash, and we can now click on the clone button. That will download the project to our local file system. And depending on your internet speed, after a few moments, the project will be downloaded. And this is more or less what you'll see inside the Sourcetree environment. So we can actually trace and see all the commits that took place, the branches that were created, and even what changed for those commits on the bottom right-hand side of here. If we look on our local file system and we double-click into the Sourcetree folder, we'll see there's the Lodash project that was created, and here's all the source code that was pulled down. And that's it for this video. I hope your environments are up and running the same way that mine is. And until next time, cheers.